Hey YouTube, Ed here with Jack of all trades and welcome to another video. So what I'm going to do today is just exactly like the description says. I have a jawbone from a white-tailed deer that I'm going to show you how to make this into a decorative tomahawk. So let's just quit talking and let's get right into the video. And welcome back. So yes, today I'm going to show you how to make a decorative tomahawk out of a white-tailed deer jawbone. But before we do, as per the usual, I got to ask you to go down and hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure you ring that notification bell so you get notified of upcoming videos. And hit me with those comments. If you like what I'm doing out here on the channel, I really would need to know that. And if you want to see more projects like this, let me know and I will certainly try my best to get them done. All right, so I've got a jawbone here from a white-tailed deer. And before anybody goes in the comments and gives me crap for killing a deer and using their parts, this was actually found at a wolf kill site. So I did not harvest this animal. This was a deer that was killed by timber wolves, and I happened along the kill site and I collected the bone. So we're going to make this decorative tomahawk, but before we do that, I know there's going to be questions in the comments. Is it actually functional? How sturdy is it? Durable? That kind of thing. This is purely for decoration. It's not horribly sturdy, and it's not horribly sturdy for the very fact that a white-tailed deer jawbone is not all that heavy duty. It's pretty lightweight, but it looks neat and it'll be nice. It'll be a nice wall hanging decoration if you're into this kind of thing. But yeah, it's not intended to be a functional tomahawk. It is really just intended to look nice and be on the wall. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and let's go over to the bench. I'm going to show you the materials that I've assembled to do this, and I'm going to show you how I made this tomahawk. All right, so the basic materials I've got here to build this tomahawk, quite obviously you're going to need a jawbone of some sort. We're going to need something for a handle. Now this happens to be a piece of an ash tree that I harvested from the woods actually. And you could go with something like this, or you could go to one of your local craft or hardware stores and you can pick up a piece of dowel. This happens to be an 1.5 inch dowel. It's about the right diameter for, to feel nice in your hands and things like that. That's a pretty good size. You could go that way. There's no rules here. The one that I showed you earlier, I actually used a piece of ash, and I'm here to tell you that was a little bit more work, but the end result was very, very nice. If you don't have the ability or have the materials or a way to get a piece of real tree branch like this, you can always just go get a dowel from your hardware store, and that will work just fine. You can take a knife and you could mark it up and make it uneven and make it look a little more natural if you wanted to, or leave it as is. Like I said, there's no rules. Do what you want and make it so that you're happy with it. You're going to need some suede or leather lace. I picked this up at my local craft store. Leather shoelaces work very, very well, although they are a little short, and I use this to wrap the handle, and you will have to put two pieces together to get any kind of a decent size handle. You will need some leather or suede cording to hang the beads and the decorative feathers off. I used a little bit of 550 cord to actually wrap and hold the jawbone into the dowel. You'll need some of that. A little bit of super glue that comes in very, very handy. You're also going to need some feathers, and quite obviously you're going to need some beading of some sort. Again, I just went to my local craft store and I got that. I also have a plastic cover from a Cool Whip container over here that I use, and I do that more than anything just to have something to put down so I don't get any super glue on my table. So how did I go ahead and make this? Well, the first thing we have to do is we have to cut a handle. So you have to decide how long you want your handle. And like I said, there's no rules. You can make it as long or as short as you want to. The handle that I put on my tomahawk is approximately 14 inches. And to be quite honest with you, I thought it was just a hair on the short side. It could have been a little longer. So I think I'll make this one about 16 inches. So just whack off a 16-inch chunk of your dowel or tree branch or whatever it is you're going to use to make your handle. All right, so now the next thing that we have to do is we have to cut a notch in here to accept the jawbone into the handle. Now I cut it about roughly 2 inches deep, and it's approximately 3/4 of a half an inch to 3/4 of an inch wide, which is about the right thickness for the jawbone. I would start off at about a half an inch and then make it wider as you need it, because all jawbones are a little bit different and you don't want to make it too loose, but you want it to be snug enough to fit in there. So I'm going to start off with about a half of an inch and widen it out from there if I need to. So now that I've got the slots cut, I'm just going to simply take a screwdriver and I'm just going to break these chunks of wood out of here. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect, and it doesn't need to be all kinds of pretty if you don't want it to be, because natives would have done this by hand, and they wouldn't have all these fancy tools to do this. They would have probably used knives or anything else that they had at their disposal to make these kind of projects and decorations. All right, so as you can see, we can get the jawbone in there, and the slot is plenty wide enough. Now I'm just going to take this over to the belt sander, and I'm going to round off the edges a little bit and just clean it up. All right, now so the next thing I like to do is I like to wrap the handle, which is what the leather suede lace is for. Now, like I said, there's no rules here. You don't have to use leather suede lace. You can use 550 cord. You can use whatever you want. I just like the way this looks. And I like about 5 or 5.5 inches of handle. So somewhere around the 5-inch mark, I'm just going to make a mark. And then I'm going to take my drill, and I'm just going to start a little hole right here near the bottom of the handle. And it doesn't need to be deep. It just needs to be, maybe a 1/4 or a 1/2 inch deep. Then I'm going to take my suede lace, my leather suede lace, make sure it fits the hole I just drilled. It should fit down in there. And it does, just fine. Then I'm just going to take a little drop of super glue, and I'm going to put a drop of super glue in the hole. And I'm going to shove that leather suede lace down in there. And then we're just going to let it sit and dry so that it holds it into place. All right, so my leather lace is it's dry enough. Now what I'm going to take is I'm going to drill another hole up here to do the other end of the handle. This is just a really simple way to do it. You can go ahead and try to lace it underneath the overlaps. I just find that this is a really simple way to do it. And then I like to, when I wrap my lace, I like to lay it nice and flat because I'm a little anal retentive. And that way I get the maximum amount of distance out of each wrap of the lace, and I think it just looks nice that way. So go ahead and wrap your lace. Wrap it fairly tight. I mean, it doesn't have to be super tight. Like I said, this isn't going to be a functional tomahawk. This is purely for decoration. You just want it tight enough so it doesn't come off. And then keep pushing the lace up against the last wrap so you get rid of the gaps. You don't have to get rid of the gaps. Maybe you like the gaps. Okay, I've got the handle wrapped all the way up to the top hole where I want it to be. So quite obviously I'm going to have to trim this leather lace back. So I'm just going to trim it back at about there, I think. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stuff it in the hole just to make sure I've got the length about right. Okay, I'm at the bottom of the hole and it's just a little too long, so I'm going to trim a little more off. Okay, it's the right depth. fits in there just perfectly. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take it back off again. Once again, we're going to pull out the old super glue. We're going to squirt some down in the hole there. And we're going to stuff that leather down in the hole. Now be careful with this super glue because this stuff will bind your or stick your skin together. So be careful with it and get it stuffed down in there. And then you got to let the super glue dry. So we're going to get that stuffed in, perfect. And we're just going to let it sit and dry. Okay, the glue on the handle is dry. It's dry enough. Super glue dries pretty quick. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my jawbone and I'm going to reinsert it in here. And I'm going to kind of get a gauge. I need to drill 2 small holes right in the end of my handle on both sides of the notch. So I'm just put the jawbone in there as kind of a gauge, nothing more. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove it, and I'm going to drill those 4 small holes in there. All right, so we are pretty much at a point now where we have to put some kind of finish on this handle. So what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to just dip this whole handle in boiled linseed oil and go ahead and let it dry, and we'll come back to it tomorrow and we'll finish it up. Okay, so I've got my bucket of boiled linseed oil here, and I'm going to dip this leather suede, wood, and everything right in the linseed oil. And you can see all those bubbles coming up in the oil. So all those bubbles came up because of the leather handle. So I'm going to let it sit here and soak until the bubbles stop rising to the top. And you can see there's still a few coming up. I want to get as much air out of that handle as I possibly can. Okay, so most of the air is out. Now I'm just going to take the handle out. I'm going to let it drip off a little bit. And then I'm just going to invert it and let the oil run down the handle. And I'm going to coat the entire handle with boiled linseed oil. Now I don't want to rub on this leather too much. I just want to kind of pat it dry and then coat the rest of the entire handle in boiled linseed oil. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to dip a little in there, let it drip off, and wipe it down. Now you should probably be wearing rubber gloves when you do this because modern boiled linseed oil of the day today has got some other chemicals on it. It's not real pure. But as my father would say, don't do as I do, do as I say. All right, so we're just going to leave this sit and let it dry for overnight or a few hours, and then we'll come back and we'll finish it up. Okay, so now the next thing I like to do is I like to take my jawbone and I like to clean it up. If there's any sharp edges or anything that you want to get off of here, now is the time to do it. Take a little sandpaper and clean things off. Clean up the teeth if you want to, things like that. The other thing that you may or may not want to consider is these front teeth up here. On the one I built earlier, I actually removed these and I just removed them with a grinder. You have to make that decision yourself if you want to take these front teeth off or not. But right here where the cartilage joins the 2 jawbones together, this can get pretty rough. So this is one thing that I would absolutely recommend doing. Is just taking a sander or a grinder or something and just cleaning this off smooth so you don't have any sharp edges and any gross stuff right here. So I'm going to go do that next. All right, so now that we have our jawbone all prepped up and ready to go, let's go ahead and let's put it in the handle. So basically, all I do is I put the jawbone in, and then I'll go ahead and I'll lace in between these holes with a piece of 550 cord, and I'll use that lacing to kind of pull the 2 halves together to kind of, for lack of a better term, clamp the handle around the jawbone. And it can be a little bit of a trick, but you can get it done. One tool I find to be very useful for this is a dental pick. Especially if you got big old fat fingers like I do, it can really help you to snake this 550 cord in between the holes. And again, there's no right or wrong way to do it. All I do is lace in between the holes, leave plenty of ends, and then I just pull it as tight together as I possibly can and tie it off. So when I've got the top laces in there, I'll go ahead and I'll trim off the excess 550 cord and then go ahead and melt the ends so they don't fray. Okay, so for the most part the jawbone is kind of in place. It's still not completely solid. Now it's time to do another wrapping to kind of lock the jawbone into place. So once again, I'll take my drill and a drill bit, and just below the notch here where the jawbone rests, I'll drill another hole, and I'm going to try and drill it in a fairly inconspicuous place. And I'm just going to drill a hole here, and all this is going to be is to put the end of the 550 cord in to make a starting point. Okay, now that I've verified my 550 cord fits in there, once again, just take some super glue, squirt it inside of the hole, just like that. Jam the 550 cord in there, and then let it dry and lock that cord into place. Alright, so now my 550 cord is good and it's locked into place. Now what I like to do is I like to make a wrap just once around the handle, and then I go on the bottom side of the hole that I had drilled and use that as my starter, and then I kind of lay it over the top of the line to kind of help lock it in. Then I'll cross over the handle and I'll go over the top of the bone, and then I'll come down the side, and then I'll cross it over again and go over the top of the bone, and then come down the side, and then I'll wrap one more time around the handle, and then I'll do the same thing so I get a crossing pattern on both sides of the bone. And that gives you a really nice looking pattern. Now, you want to pull this fairly tight. I just did it loosely here just to show you how I did it. But you're going to want to pull this all fairly tight because you're going to want to try to make sure that that jawbone kind of stays into place. Like I said, this isn't intended to be functional. It's decorative, but at the same time, you don't want it to be loosened up. No right or wrong way to do this. You can do this however you want. Again, this is just how I do it. And then once I've got it all tied in, I'll just go ahead and I'll do several wraps down the shaft of the handle just to give it a nice appearance. This is just the way I like it. Okay, so here's kind of a neat little trick, and this is one way you can use to to kind of finish off your wrapping. Make a loop out of a piece of thread or some string, or maybe the guts from the inside of this 550 cord, and then wrap around this loop and bury the loop underneath the 550 cord as you're wrapping it around. And I'll show you why you're doing this here in a little bit. And get a few wraps on it. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's give it 6 wraps just for the sake of a nice even number. Okay. Now you go ahead and you take this 550 cord and you run it through the loop like this. And then you grab the other end and you kind of pull it through, and you can see how it pulls that 550 cord up nice and tight. So then once you've got it snugged up to the bottom, go ahead and take your scissors and cut off the 550 cord. And then you should be able to take this loop and pull it through, and it should suck that 550 cord up and underneath the other wraps that you just wrapped around. It's going to be my apology, my camera stopped recording, but once you get it pulled up like this, you can just kind of bury that. You can see that cord going up underneath these other cords, and you can just kind of bury it underneath there, and you can move these pieces around to kind of cover things up and smush them down. But there, your tomahawk is pretty much locked into place. It's not going anywhere. Again, this is not intended to be functional. It's purely decorative, and for hanging on the wall, it'll be perfectly fine. Okay, let's go ahead and let's pretty this thing up a little bit. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this suede cording, whatever color you like. Again, there's no right, wrong, or otherwise. Peel off a pretty good chunk of this suede cording. And then what I often do is I'll just try to snake it through the slot here somehow, just to kind of get a place for it to tie off on. Okay, so I've got it through there. Now you can just go ahead and take and tie it off with a square knot just to kind of lock it into place. Like that. Now you can go ahead and you can add your beads. And again, no right or wrong way to do this. You can use whatever you like. Just put some beads on here to pretty it up. We're going to put some feathers on this as well, just to make it kind of neat and interesting looking. So we'll go ahead and we'll just throw on some beads here. Let's throw on a blue one just to make it fun. And then a white one. Okay, now I want to do some with some feathers. So take any one of the beads, and this is kind of a neat way to put the feathers on. I thought it was kind of neat anyway. Go ahead and put a bead on there, and then pick whatever feather you want. And you can go ahead and you can just slide it in the hole here. And when you've determined that that's what you want it to look like, and you like that look, then take it back out again. Put a little super glue on the feather. Careful not to get it on your fingers. And stuff it up inside of the bead, kind of work it back and forth in there, get some of that super glue in there, and then let it sit and dry. Don't mess with it. You got to give that super glue time to set up. Grab another feather. Put the feather up inside of the bead. I like the way that looks. Pull the feather back out again. Put some glue on it. Jam it up inside there. Let that sit. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this other piece of cordage, and let's see, let's add a gold bead. Like that, and I'm not going to run that bead all the way up. And let's add a white one. Let's add a blue one. Let's add a wooden one. Let's just be fun, and let's put this little geometric metal shape I got in with these. I got this in the bead kit. I thought it was kind of neat. So I'm going to go ahead and use it. And we'll put the large white bead on here. Like so. Let's put one more golden one on just to finish off the chain here. There we go. Go ahead and just tie a knot. Snip it off. There we go. Just for fun, I'm going to go ahead and put another wooden bead on this other one below the feathers. See how that looks. Yeah, I like the way that looks. Again, there's no right or wrong way. This is art. You can do it whatever way makes you feel good inside. There's a little Bob Ross for you. How's that? If it came from you, it's the right way to do it. And there we have some pretty neat decoration. Now, let's go ahead and artsy this thing up just a little bit more. All right, so I went online and I found these Native American symbols, just kind of neat, and it was very simple art. This is about as artsy-fartsy as I get, and I just kind of used this as for some ideas on what I could decorate the bone with a little bit. So I'm just going to use some of these as an example. So let's just say on the long shank of the bone, I want to do, let's say, a peace pipe. And I just use a Sharpie. If you're into paint, you could certainly use a paint if you want to. But I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to draw a peace pipe on here. Fill it in. Like I said, I'm using a Sharpie because I'm just not very art oriented. But if you're good with paints, you can certainly paint these on if you want to. And then let's just say up here in this area, let's do a woman figure. There we go. A woman figure on there. Say let's flip it over. Let's do something different over here, and let's do. Heck, on this side we could do a man figure on this side. Do a man figure over there, and let's just do an arrow. How does an arrow sound? Arrow sounds pretty cool. So go ahead and we'll draw an arrow. There we go. Even though that side will hardly ever get seen, we'll go ahead and throw some decoration on that. And there you go, my friends. You have just made a decorative Native American tomahawk. And there you have it, folks. Make a tomahawk out of a white-tailed deer jawbone, or you could do this out of a mule deer jawbone, or perhaps your elk, or even a moose, or any number of things. But as long as you've got it, you might as well use it. They're really neat looking. They're kind of a Native American styling, if you will. These are going to go on the wall up at my hunting cabin. I think they'll look really cool. It kind of goes with, the hunting cabin idea. And I really like them. Now, I can't take credit for this. I actually got the idea from a friend of mine. He was obviously far more creative than I did. And I'll put some pictures up of what he did. Quite obviously he did it in a slightly different styling than I did. He did different handle material, things of that effect. But there are no rules here. You do whatever you want to make it the way you want, to basically show your style and show your artistic ability. This is just the way I did it, and I just hope it gives you some ideas on what you can do with these things. I'm not a big proponent of wasting things, and things like jawbones and things like that. They just kind of get thrown away and put in the garbage, and you might as well make something kind of nice and pretty out of them and decorate your home with them if that's your style. So let's go ahead and let's wrap this video up. Now, if you're liking what I'm doing out here in the Jack of All Trades channel, please go down and hit that like and subscribe button. It doesn't cost you a penny, and it's the only way I really ever ask you for support. And hit me in those comments. If you like these kind of projects and you want me to do more of them, I'll do more of them. I'll do whatever you guys want me to do out here. But I'm running out of ideas, so hit me up with some things that you want to see me do on the channel, and I will do my best to get them done. With that, this is Ed from Jack of All Trades. As always, thank you to my longtime subscribers. Thank you to my new subscribers and to everybody who watches this channel. I really do appreciate it. And until next time, we will see you on the next video.